Ladies and gentlemen, it is July 11, Friday. It is currently 1:07 outside, so it's getting a little tough, not gonna lie. So I talk about this every damn time, so we'll just skip through this right quick. But it's pretty fucking hot here in Vegas. If you were thinking of coming here for the summer or anything for a weekend or something, maybe rethink that or stay inside. But even then, I've heard some places are, some casinos, some major casinos, some of the ACs are going out. So yeah, maybe rethink that trip for another time. But today I wanted to go over kind of something more like taboo in a way, not necessarily, but I guess you'll get what I mean. And it is, how do you know if you've gone too far in a bulk? And on the other side of the spectrum, how do you know if you've gone too far in a cut? So essentially, how do you know you're too fat? How do you know you're too skinny? So let's start with the skinny. So first and foremost, the easiest way you'll be able to tell is obviously through looking at the mirror, and pictures, so progress pictures, and also those around you. So people will be able to tell, like, you know, you're getting a little skinny, you know, it's getting a little excessive. And those are signs. That's one of the first few signs where you should start thinking, like, you know, I'm gonna take a better look at myself and take a look at my weight and take a look at my health and overall mental health and how I feel, really. So which brings me to my next thing is, you know, you've gone too far in the cut if you feel like shit, meaning consistently. So there's gonna be days where you naturally feel like shit, right? Even if you're bulking or cutting, it doesn't matter. But if it's consistently feeling like shit, meaning tired, fatigued, the fuck? Someone just pulled up to my house. Fatigued, tired, and one of the more common things is overly, excessively hungry and thinking about food all the time. That's one of the biggest signs that you probably have gone too far in the cut, you know? And one of the low-key signs that, you know, it's kind of hard to look at, but it's pretty like apparent, especially if you have a partner, which is essentially your ability to, you know, work in terms of downstairs, like your, you know, being able to have intercourse and whatnot, or being able to, you know, get horny, essentially. You know, when you're in a deep cut, like an excessive cut, and I mean excessive, you'll slowly start to lose that. You're like, you won't have the urge to do any of that. Not even the thought comes to mind, because your hormones are imbalanced. Essentially, you're too low in body fat, and this is a huge dilemma, especially in the bodybuilding community. Even for some social media influencers, like obviously it's very difficult to deal with, like, all these crazy bodies online, and you're like, well, I want to do that too. So you push yourself, you keep pushing yourself, and, you know, if you have enough discipline, you know, unfortunately at the same time, you'll be able to reach those excessive, crazy body fats where, you know, you're absolutely fucking shredded to the bone. But it's not healthy. That's what you have to understand about all this. So, and also keep in mind, what is the long-term goal? That's a main thing. Even for me, that's something I've had to learn over the years. You know, I've gone too far in cuts. I've done it all. And ultimately, I've always came back to one thing, which is, you know, why did I start and what is my end goal? So obviously, it's a quick answer. And personally, my goal was, you know, I want to keep getting bigger. I want to keep improving my physique. So am I really going to do that by being in that excessive cut and being so fucking lean? Probably not, especially if you're natural. It's not going to happen. You need to start eating a little more. You need to start making sure that weight is slowly increasing over time. And, you know, you just need that food. You need that fuel to be able to put on that extra tissue, that new tissue. One thing I didn't even mention is, you know, obviously we talked about energy levels and whatnot if you feel like shit, but your training. If your training is literally, it's apparent that it's transcending downwards, whether it's the weight you're lifting, whether you can't keep up with the same amount of reps, sets, intensity especially. If you can't work as hard, you can't put in as much effort. If you're tired after one or two exercises, guess what? You're probably too low in body fat. You're probably eating too little, and you need to start eating slightly little more if you're still in that, good cut, not excessive. But if you are in that excessive cut, well, guess what? Your training going to shit it's not gonna do anything for you. So you need to change that up. So now on the other side of the spectrum, you're too fat. So if you look in the mirror, you'll be able to tell right away. So being too fat is a little, I guess for some people, like for me, it's a little difficult to figure out if I'm too fat or not. But like others, it's the same thing. Others will be able to tell you, and progress pictures will definitely tell you, because you're slowly going to put on that body fat. You're going to see the changes. You're going to see them. A lot of the time, you're going to look very similar, especially when you're putting on weight, you're bulking. So that's why I'd say it's a little hard to know when you're getting a little chubby. But some of the things that do come into mind that you'll know if you got a little too fat is your training will start to get hindered, meaning you'll start to get tired. Same thing as the cut. You'll start to get tired, overly tired, like fast. Your flexibility will be out of place. Your endurance, like I said, will be cooked. You'll especially see this in compound lifts like squatting. Obviously if you're going through the range, like it's gonna be harder because you weigh more to like do that movement on a consistent basis for higher reps, for example. So obviously it's not always about higher reps. It's really dependent on you. But besides this, overall, you eating more, gaining more weight is gonna take a toll on your body, and it's just going to be harder to get around because you weigh more. You have more mass overall. But that's really one of the biggest things. Another thing is lack of appetite. So as you're bulking, you're naturally just going to lose your appetite, especially if you're like a hard gainer and you're just eating crazy amounts of food. You're almost forcing that shit down. You're going to notice a lack of appetite at some point. And that could be a sign. You need to take a break on the bulk. To back down a little bit, maybe start up again. But ultimately, it really depends on how you look. If you look like shit, I'm gonna leave it like this. If you look like shit, why do you continue to bulk? Why do you keep bulking? It's better, back off a little bit. Cut some of that body fat out, and continue again. It's not always about push. Sometimes you have to pull. So that's really it that comes to mind. Hopefully kind of made it easy to understand, but a little longer. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and share, and follow me on TikTok and Instagram. See ya.